And thank you so much for coming to our first annual celebration of veterans and students. My name is Audrey Coletta. I'm the senior and president of the VHP chapter at Niceville High School. I am honored to serve as your MC for today's event. Would you please rise as my fellow VHP member, Rebecca Campbell, offers the invocation.
Thank you all for being here today to support these amazing veterans and the students who were given a rare opportunity to learn about their stories. Let us take a moment to bow our heads and pray. Almighty God, whose great lessons are that we shall love our neighbors as ourselves, and who has taught us that we should do unto others as we would have them do to us, we ask your blessing upon the works of the Veteran Heritage Project, as our purpose is to share inspiring stories of our nation's heroes, those who have served this great nation with honor and patriotism. We pray that you will enlighten our minds with a clear vision of your will for us, inspire our determination to follow that vision in our writings, and strengthen our hand in all of our undertakings. May the lives we have written about here inspire and enrich the lives of our fellow citizens. May they be a source of strength upon our communities, that our work may shine a light on our ideals and aspirations under you, O Father. God bless America, and in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Rebecca. We are now proud to welcome the Niceville High School Junior ROTC Color Guard, commanded by Cadet Benjamin Cott.
Art time. Arch. Colors. Honor guard. Low. Present. Colors.
Please remain standing as Brian Sun, Vice President of our chapter, leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the singing of our national anthem by Isabella Perez from Collegiate High at Northwest Florida State College.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Art time. Arch. Colors. Forward. Arch. Honor guard. Hello. Water colors. Amen. Well done.
Thank you for honoring our veterans with your beautiful voice. Thank you. You may be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce our honored VHP veterans. If you would please stand as your name is called. I ask the audience to please hold their applause until all veterans have been recognized. Our keynote speaker, World War II veteran, Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Lombardo. World War II veterans, John Beard, William Konzinger, and William McCone. Vietnam veterans, John Brennan, Richard Comer, Howard Hill, George Legg, Patricia Wallace Millett, Larry Schustrom, and Jack Starr. Joseph Perka was not able to be here today, and Gail Norgard is not here today. She is in our thoughts and prayers right now. You may be seated. Thank you. Some of our key administrators are Mr. Steve Horton, Assistant Superintendent of Okaloosa County Schools. Mrs. Horton, standing in for Mr. Morello, Principal of Niceville High School. Ms. Christine Cruikshank, Assistant Principal of Collegiate High School. And Mr. John Spolsky, Principal of Fort Walton Beach High School. We would also like to recognize Ron Padgett, the composer of the song Men of Steel, and Clint McCohen, who created the music video. Please enjoy.
You're gonna have to sing it, Ron.
Kind of working earlier. Does anybody text? Does anybody text person that can help us? Any sound people? We had it on earlier, played a lot. Here we go. I apologize. Go ahead and do that.
We would now like to honor all veterans in the audience that have served in the armed forces by showing a video that includes each branch's service song. Please stand to be recognized when you hear your service song. Over the past 15 years, VHP has interviewed nearly 1,700 veterans from all military branches and conflicts. We would like to recognize all veterans in attendance today. Please stand if you are a veteran of any of the following wars or conflicts: World War II and our Rosie the Riveters, the Korean War, the Vietnam War and our Golden Star wives, the Cold War, the Persian Gulf Wars, and the Afghanistan War. Please also stand if you are currently serving in any branch of our military. Let's give one last round of applause to our brave men and women in the armed forces. Okay, so now the video seems like it is working. Maybe. So we would like to honor all veterans in the audience that have served in the armed forces by showing a video that includes each branch's service song. Please stand to be recognized when you hear your service song. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Thank you. So, my script. So according to the script, the next part I should go to is another video. Right, so third time's a charm. All right. In the meantime, I am pleased to introduce the Veterans Heritage Project Advisor at Niceville High School, Mrs. Carmen Marshall Claude.
Maybe I should sing this. No dancing, right? Oh, I love and I hate technology. Every day. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming. As Audrey said, my name is Carmen Marshall Claude, and I'm the current sponsor of the Niceville chapter of the Veterans Heritage Project, but I'm not the first. They're first, but was our advocate, Gretchen Erickson. That's right. Who in here does not know Gretchen? Raise your hand. Who doesn't know Gretchen? That's her husband. Okay. Gretchen has been a friend of mine for many years. And she came to me about a couple of years ago and she told me about her dad being interviewed by these high school students in Phoenix, where her dad lives, and found out about this World War II story, and they videotaped him, and it was going to be housed in the Library of Congress, and she showed me this book, the essay that they wrote, and it was beautiful, and she said, Carmen, we got to do this here in Niceville. And I was like, okay, Gretchen, you know how she is. She gets so excited, and she talks like a mile a minute, faster than, all of us Puerto Ricans do, and she said, we have to get this done at Niceville, and I'm like, okay, Gretchen, sure. I said, let me see what we can do. And so then I went to my very best friend, Pat Mixon. Stand up, Pat. Where are you? I said, Pat, guess what Gretchen wants to do? Because, Pat's head of the English department at Niceville. I said, she wants to do this project here at Niceville. Don't you think that'd be great for the AP students to, do this? And she's like, thanks, Carmen. So then Gretchen's, Pat, we gotta do this. So they did it, and you guys hearing Bell? St. Peter's calling. Okay, so Pat got it rolling, and then she got Cheryl involved, and the first VHP chapter got started, and here we are. But if it hadn't been for Gretchen, we wouldn't be here today. So, Gretchen, come here. Don't give me that look. Audrey? You're crying all day. Just a little something for you. She's worked tirelessly for 2 years to make this happen today, and when it all started today, she just started boo-booing. And she's used all my Kleenex, so if anybody has any more Kleenex, we could really just pass them down the road for her.
But any of you in the audience who have not met me yet, please get my business card. Let's get you linked up with students. We've got to get a lot more stories told. You all have your own story to share, and we'll get you connected.
I was like, Gretchen, you're not going to talk today? She goes, oh no, it's not about me, but I knew she'd say that. I'm almost done. Do we have sound? We don't know. We should? Mm-hmm. I have faith. Right, Jack? I have faith. Okay. So, when I got the book, I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. It's the prettiest of all of the books they've ever published. And it is. And that's because they reserved it for Niceville's debut. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. And the stories are beautiful. And they're your stories. They are just so beautiful. And the students who wrote them, I mean, these kids are 15, 16, and 17 years old. These are the kids that you see walking around with their phones and their faces in their cell phones. Yeah, those are the ones who wrote the stories, and they are beautiful. They are like bestseller reading, and I've read them nonstop. And I can't wait for y'all to read them. And when I read them, it was like going back in time, because I'm a military brat. My dad was a master sergeant in the Air Force. He started off as a Navy corpsman, and he joined when he was 17. My parents had to sign for him to be able to join, and we were assigned to many of the bases that y'all were assigned at. We were at Clark Air Force Base during the Vietnam War, and I remember my dad being sent TDY to Thailand all the time, and we were just waiting when they were going to make him go to Vietnam, and he never went. But we were there at that time, and we were stationed at Valdosta, and so many of the bases where you guys were, and out in California, and when the C-5 first came off the runway. We were there when that happened, and I was just a little kid, but I remember all of that. And so reading your stories was like, you know, walking down memory lane, but I can't wait for you to crack open the plastic on that book and read these kids' stories that they wrote, because they're so well written, and I can't believe those kids who, you know, do some of the dumbest things in my classroom wrote such beautiful stuff. It's just amazing what they're able to do, and they're going to go out and do just the most incredible things. So when you go and get your book signed, just watch their faces light up when they're sitting there next to their veterans, because telling their stories, their lives were changed when they met these veterans. Amazingly, you people changed their lives, and they can't wait to go out and meet more of you and to get to know you more and get to know more of your generation, because you have inspired them. And so I thank you so very much. And I thank Gretchen for making this happen, because without her and without you, this greatness wouldn't have happened. So thank you so very much. Now, ready?
Try turning off the microphone. Good work earlier. Very well.
Ron, you're gonna have to give everybody
As I stand here, I'm reminded of such a great price to pay for all. A soldier in the arms of Jesus, in a statue 6 feet tall. In a faraway war, walking in fear of what is yet to come near. Is in the arms of Jesus, and you'll never walk alone. From the bombers and the boundless sky to the bloodstained soldiers' heart and eyes, it's hard to understand the reasons why. The cries of the wounded, those who die young, to protect the truth we all hold dear. But the cost of freedom is always paid with tears. So some it's just a statue, but to me the man of steel. And finds a great strength, a saving grace, we're in our Father's will. I won't forget the ones who fought and died, and served this country with valor and pride. A nation that stands on freedom has one God by our side. At a graveside on a distant hill, a white stone sits remembering still. A mother kneeling, wiping her tears away. It seems just like yesterday. Finally the wheel turned and walk away, to leave him alone as the guns rang out loud and strong. Just an last look at her very own, who paid his life to most unknown. Each thread of lightning brings a sobering chill. Every thunder and the wind she feels, 21 times the guns linger still, and she's reminded that her name is still
We would now like to honor all veterans in the audience that have served in the armed forces by showing a video that includes each branch's service song. Please stand to be recognized when you hear your service song.
Get off the mic.
Thank
We are now honored to have Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Lombardo as our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Gretchen. We had trouble with the mic where I live, and we found out we weren't standing close enough to it. So I hope everybody hears. There's nothing worse than not hearing. I used to have a pair of hearing aids, and I bragged about how good they were. And my friend John said, "What kind is it?" I said, 1130. I said, I knew I had to get new hearing aids. So I got new hearing aids. So I hope everybody hears. Thank you, Gretchen, and thank you all the staff and all the people that were involved in this project. And I think I take pride in that all the colleagues that were interviewed will say the same, a big thank you. Ever since the beginning of time, men fought each other, later villages, later cities, later states, and then recently in World War II, continents got involved. The question is always asked, why do we have wars? So you hear many reasons, but the number one reason is that the country wants to project its own type of government on it as far as possible. And the defenders want to keep theirs. And that's why we fought. That's why all these men fought, to keep Uncle Sam what we are. So I want to give a hand to all the veterans that provided. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. We're living in freedom. That's the first time I took notes for all the years I've been public speaking. First of all, I got to clear the uniform. Everybody asked. As you know, if you're hanging a uniform or any clothing in your closet for over 2 years, they shrink. And mine shrunk from World War II. So the Harrison Education Center of the Army up at the War College up in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, had this made for me because I did so much public speaking. And I sympathize with the teachers because one day at the high school, I gave 4 lectures in one day, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. So I know what the teachers go through, and I like to give all the teachers a good hand. I never made notes before in my life because whatever you say, somebody told me years ago, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have notes. And I don't have notes for my content. I made notes so I wouldn't miss, because in some of my speeches, I missed some subjects. And now I don't only forget my keys, I forget where my car is. Now for myself, I was born in southern Italy on July 12, 1919. Next July, I will be 100 years old. I'm very lucky. My 2 sisters and my mother arrived at Ellis Island on 3 October 1929, and we came over legally. My normal talk is about 2 hours, and the biggest job I had was to cut it down to 21 minutes, so I hope you'll bear with me. I'm going to spend 7 minutes as a boyhood, because that's what created or helped to produce what I am today. 7 minutes in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, and 7 minutes in the Army and the war. My first 10 years, and all of you gotta know, the first 10 years I grew up in Italy under the helm of Mussolini. Although he was not as bad as Hitler, he was still a dictator. And I know oppression firsthand. And I remember once a week, the fascists made a parade up our little town of 6,000 people. Everybody had to get out and raise their hand. And one day we were all lined up, and a man about 65 years old, right next to me, was bent over at 90 degrees. So I think he osteoporosis, probably whatever he had, but he was incapacitated. When the fascists went by, everybody raised their hand, and I saw 2 fascists pull out of the ranks and came straight at me. And I thought they were after me, but anyhow, they grabbed this man because he couldn't raise his hand. They grabbed him by the neck and took him up to the dungeon. And the dungeon was only a block away, And I mean a dungeon from the 6th century. My town was 6th century old. And the dungeon didn't have any TVs, didn't have any commodities. All I had was one more window, believe it or not. It was a cellar under the police station. Had a window about 2 feet square with bars, and that was the only light into the dungeon. That's a real dungeon. So they pulled him out of there. I was so mad. You know how old I was? 9 years old. So what am I going to do at 9? But I was so mad that they took him out. That's one sign of oppression. The other was one day they announced that all foreign flags would be confiscated or would be reported. And my dad was a socialist because he was a fascist. We had 2 flags, one socialist and we had an American flag. And my mother took the 2 flags, said, Sam, go up and hide them in our attic. So I climbed up the attic, and then on my knees, I crawled across the rafters. Carefully, I put them under my arms and I crawled clear over to where the roof meets the ceiling. I tucked them in and hid them, came back. It was quite a job. I was afraid of going through the ceiling. Came down, we waited for the henchmen to arrive, and soon the mayor and 2 henchmen, all in black. I thought they were 7 foot tall, and Mother was shaking. Mother was stern white, and I knew, even at 9 years old, I could feel that Mother was hurting. I grabbed her skirt, and pretty soon the mayor asked, Senora, do you have any flags to declare? She said no, shakingly. And by that time, I pulled her skirt, and I went to a tantrum, and I yelled as loud as I could. At 9 years old, I understood what was going on. The mayor and the henchmen had enough of Sam, so they took off. So that was the end of that. Bear with me. The next one, we owned property all over Italy, all over the town. We had an olive grove, we had a vineyard for the wine, we had a wheat field for the wheat. We even had a lot up in the mountains to get our firewood because fuel is so important. So we had all of these, but we had a garden about a mile out, and my parents did something a little, I think I would have done it differently, but they planted the watermelons next to the fence. And every day people went along this path, they stole their watermelons. So my mother prepared a lunch for me, and all through the summer, I would go out to our block, and my uncles built a loft about 20 feet high with a 20-foot ladder, and I'd go up with a pipe pan, and the minute I saw people walking by the wall, I would rattle. And they kept by, so we saved the watermelon. But coming home that evening, I got home late, it was about 5 o'clock, and it was dark, and the path to my right was a dead end, so there was nowhere to go. To the left went to our town. On the left side was a wall about 4 feet high. On the right was about a 7-foot wall, and then vines coming over, bougainvillea, maybe 8 feet thick, over with almost like a tunnel going through. And by the time I got there, I looked. On the left, there's 2 big iguanas on the wall. So I'm not going to go by there. But hanging was the worst period in my life. Hanging were about maybe 10 snakes. Hanging from the vine. So remember what I did here because it comes later. Sometimes you reach a place where you don't have your teacher, you don't have your mom and papa, or your boss to tell you what to do. And I knew I had to get through. So I had to reach inside of me. I said, I got to get through. So I bent over, closed my eyes, and ran as fast as I can and yelled all the way. You know, I never turned around to look back. I kept going. So when I went to the army and I went to the obstacle course, it was like peaches and cream. That was really a sign. We waited so long for my dad. Dad had to be a citizen, first of all, to send for us, and also he had enough money. So he built this beautiful church. I think I have a picture over on the wall. It took about a year to build this beautiful Methodist church in our community up there to get enough money to bring us over. So when he had enough money, he sent for us, and we soon got news that we're coming over to America. It was the greatest news we ever heard. So we went by buggy to the rail station on the ocean and went up to Naples and got on the ship. The ship made the crossing in about 11 days. By the time we got to New York Harbor, we got on it that night. The captain said that we're going to go in the next morning. I was determined I was going to be the first to see the Statue of Liberty. In the morning, about 5 o'clock, I slipped out of the stateroom, closed the door, and went up topside. Can you imagine my mother waking up and not seeing a bed, not seeing me in bed? Two sisters, and they were still asleep. I went up there, but somebody beat me to it. There were 15 teenagers waiting to see the Statue of Liberty. But there was fog. It was all fogged in. They were so kind that they put me up on one of those round vents, you know, that you see on the ship. They have a hole in the front part, and as the ship goes by, it picks up air, goes down below deck. They were kind enough to put me up on top, so I could still see the Statue of Liberty first. In the morning, and about an hour or so, the fog lifted, and a beautiful lady was standing there. You can't believe how happy we were seeing the Statue of Liberty for the first time. The whole ship, all the residents of the ship, all the passengers were there. I think if we had a smaller boat, I think we would have been in New York Harbor. Everybody was so happy singing as we saw the Statue of Liberty. So we got off, and on the sidewalk in New York, my dad told me the first guidance he gave us. He said, remember, you cannot change to be patriotic, or not patriotic, be your birthplace. You've got to be considered. Of course, we can't change anything where we were born. So be proud of your heritage. However, remember that America is our new country. So obey the laws. 3 things he told. Obey the laws. Be the best citizen you can be, and then learn the English language as soon as possible. The first 2 we got right away. I'm still working on the English language. So we went to Pennsylvania, and I wouldn't change my vote for anything. We lived out in the country, in the woods, and I think learning the terrain and all helped with my map making. I specialized in map reading during the war. Understand how water grows and where it grows and which way it goes. And my men told me that if I weren't in German, they'd be still going in German woods in circles. But that's what was my specialty. Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania and I loved it. So pretty soon the war broke out in Europe in 1939, and Hitler was trying to take over all of Europe. And I had a friend in the National Guard. So he came over and said, Sam, we meet every weekend, why don't you join? And I knew for sure that we were going to get into the war. I knew it because it just happens that way. So my dad and mother didn't want me to go in, but I joined the 28th National Guard, the 28th Division of Pennsylvania. And pretty soon we were inducted into federal service, which means we were part of the regular army. And we went to maneuvers in the Carolinas. When the maneuvers were over, we started back, and one night we pitched tents outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, and about 9 o'clock at night was the 7th December 1941. Over the radio, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Would you believe it that nobody in the camp knew where Pearl Harbor was? And all I had to do was mention Hawaii. If they had mentioned Hawaii, we would have known, but nobody knew. Anyhow, pretty soon it came out it wasn't Hawaii. We went back to Pennsylvania, refurbished, went back to Louisiana, and there I applied for OCS. And with 50 other sergeants, we went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I became a second lieutenant. I was stationed in a couple of camps, Camp Robinson, Arkansas, Camp Fannin, Texas, for 2 years. I trained, and I had a company too of 200 men, and I also trained everybody in map reading. So I figured I must have trained 2,000 or 3,000 soldiers in my time in 2 years. I kept asking for overseas. I wanted to get here for myself. I felt that good. And I couldn't, because I specialized in maps, they wouldn't let me go. So finally in Texas, the colonel came up and said, Lombardo, I got a levy for 5 officers. You still want to go? And I said, of course. I wouldn't change my word for anything. So 5 of us took off for New York, Camp Jackson, New York, up in New York State, just to practice getting off a ship. All I had was a false ship with a makeup with a long net. So we know how to get off the net and get onto the small boat. So we stayed there 2 days, and finally we went to Southampton, England. And Southampton, we got on a ship, and that's where we had to practice to get onto the smaller boats to get on Omaha Beach. Omaha Beach had their battle had happened in June. This was November, but all the hexagons, all the obstacles were still there. Right next to Omaha Beach is a little orchard, and that's where we camped for the night. And it rained for 24 hours. And the next morning, they gave me 36 men, and about 19 miles from there was Calentano, which is a railhead. At the railhead, they gave me 36 men, and they put us in 40 and 8 rail cars. And the 40 and 8 got their name in World War I because they accommodated 8 horses, so 40 men. So the Americans gave the cars to 40 and 8. So we got in and we started our mosey up to the front line. It was the slowest ride we've ever seen. Almost every few miles it would stop. Every few miles we were heading for Paris rail yard. It was kind of cold, and I told the man, I said, let's get a stove. So at the first rail yard we picked up a barrel, a drum. We got a pickaxe and put holes on the bottom of it. We got it in, and I sent 2 men. It was pitch black by now. I sent 2 men out to get some stones from the railroad to put under the barrel. We did that, and then we got K-Rex and Boston and built a fire. And I stayed up. I was a light sleeper because I was in charge of the men, and I'm always very care to take care of them. So about 11 o'clock, I smelled smoke. I said, we got a problem. I wakened everybody up. You know, the first thing that came to my mind was the old movies we used to see where the Indians shot the flaming arrow to the car and got it on fire. That's what went through my mind immediately. So I wakened everybody up. We kicked the barrel out. We kicked the fire out. And the floor was still on fire. So I made a circle with the men around us. Everybody did their duty, and we put the fire out. We got to the front line, and you can't believe it. No wonder we had the Battle of the Bulge. Finally, it's the worst weather in 50 years. If the weather had been clear, there wouldn't be any Battle of the Bulge. The Air Force would have knocked out all these concentration areas of the Germans. That's the biggest storm and winter they ever had, so everything was fogged in. You couldn't see anything, but the lines were so thin. We had about three times the distance we covered for a company of 165 men. My company commander took me out the next day to see the company line. It took 2 days to just see our front line for a company. And I looked over and I saw 2 foxholes, one here and one I could barely see over the hill. And I told my company commander, I said, you know, I could bring a patrol through here. What goes on? And the answer I got, I said, that's what we did at Benny. He said, that's what you did at Benny, but this is the way we do it here. So, you know what happened? The Battle of the Bulge, a few days later, occurred. So on the 16th of December, everything broke loose. We were digging in. We had to dig a line, they said, because the Germans are ready to attack. So we dug and dug, and my CO wanted to know why we're digging so deep. We had a double foxhole for he and I. I was the executive officer also and a platoon leader. So we dug 12 feet long. A regular foxhole was only 4 feet deep. We went 7 feet deep. And I said, you know why? He said, why are we going this deep? Okay, we put steps on the end. And finally, about 5 o'clock, the bombardment started. I think the Germans threw everything they had in our power. Nebelwerfers, rockets, mortars, low caliber artillery, big artillery, everything they had. That went on for 25 minutes. It was Armageddon. We thought it was the end of the world for me. So we kneeled down in the bottom of the foxhole, put our hands over our heads and prayed and hoped that we get through it. And pretty soon, would you know that the last shell, the last artillery shell, hit the front of our foxhole. And you know the extra dirt we dug out of that hole saved us. We had the parapets, they call it the parapets, the mountain in front. It hit there, and the whole wall caved in. It was like an inverted ice cream cone. but the shell never came through. So we took the dirt off her back, and I said, JJ, are you okay? He said, yes. Sam, are you okay? Yes. We took her dirt off and got out. We waited, and it was still as it is right now. And within minutes, our own artillery started. 25 minutes bombarding them. The Germans never attacked, so we must have broken our back, and something happened. Pretty soon, we started moving forward, and we started up the Ruhr Pockets. And you know, we take it for granted. We see our flag every place we go. I didn't see the flag for 5 weeks. I got homesick for our flag. It doesn't mean a cloth, it means war march. It means all the stores you go to. It means the gas station. It means all of us here. I really got homesick, so I asked our headquarters to get a flag. Of course, they're not going to send one up to the front lines to a foxhole. They're going to send it to the headquarters. So I wasn't authorized to have one by channel. So I told my man, we'll make our own. So we started, and then you've probably seen cities, that vacated, empty cities, with flags, white flags out the windows. When the city gave up, they all vacated, everyone put up something white out the window. Either a sheet, a towel, something white, and they take out, and the town is empty, it's vacated. So I looked out the window, and I saw what I thought was just the right size. And I got it for the background of our flag. It wasn't no flag by night, I don't mean a pun, but anyhow, it was this size. Exact size, can you imagine? Exact size, 3 by 5. This way it goes. That was the size of our flag. Identical to the inch. I'll fold it later. So every time we were, the first house we started, we took blue curtains. You can see the beautiful color we had in the pictures. Blue curtains, pillowcases were red and the white background. The pillowcases, we had some fun because all the rich homes over in Europe, they stuffed their pillows with eiderdown, which is that little pin feather under the goose's breast. You can imagine how many geese they had to kill in order to get a goose, a pillow. When you opened it up, we really had a problem because all these little things flew all over the air. We opened the window. These guys were playing baseball outside. They all came up and said, what gives, what gives? And that was the birth of our flag. From then on, I had Juno, my platoon guy, who was the last man in the platoon. I didn't want to get captured, so he was the last man. He carried all the materials all the way to the Ruhr Pockets. Every time we were in reserve, we did the same thing. I sent my sergeant to the Burgermeister, borrow a sewing machine, and we worked till midnight in German cellars by candlelight. Would make a great picture, but anyhow, that's what we did. We did it all the way up to the Ruhr and back to the Ruhr. Up in the middle of the Ruhr Pocket, we hit something funny. Well, it was very interesting. We saw a roundhouse. We didn't know what it was empty. No people in the town. The town was vacated, so we moved up to it. In the middle of the round building was a table, a round table 20 feet wide, and eggs were stacked 2 feet high. It must have been 10,000 eggs. It was an egg house for the town. I looked over in the corner, there was a chimney, and I thought it was a fireplace. But Sergeant Oliverio from West Virginia knew what he was. He looked over, went over, looked up the chimney, guess what? He saw a ham up there. And the chimney was still warm. The people had just left. So he got the ham over, and we had fried eggs and ham. And I told the people, to my man, I said, I don't want one egg wasted. You can have all you want, but don't waste an egg. So Sergeant Lee, one of my squad leaders, I remember eating 12 eggs. That was the first good breakfast we had in ages. We ended up at the Ruhr Pocket, at the end of the Ruhr. They should have known. The commander on this hill looks across 1,000 yards. It's all a field, empty, with one building over there. And at the other end, this is the end of the Ruhr pocket. 300,000 Germans are over there. You can see the tanks, you can see them all over there. They're all lined up, ready to give up. If I were a general, I could have walked. What I got the order for was a reconnaissance patrol. For God's sake, you can see from this hill to the other, there's nothing. Anyhow, I went across this valley, and on the middle of the valley we saw a cabin, or a small white building, and it was a German ambulance parked outside, so I knew it was an aid station. So what am I going to do, capture it and take it home? You got to use common sense. So we went upstairs, I had Sergeant Rosalie, and I watched his back. We got up there, and there's a doctor and 2 nurses, and they're busy packing. So I searched the doctor, and I asked the ladies if they had any guns. They said no. So I let them pack. I said, go ahead and pack and leave. They were only a couple hundred yards from the 300,000 who were ready to give up. Maybe if I had to do it over, I might have gone up to a German gentleman, but I'm sure he would have never given up to a lieutenant. So we got back and went to Nuremberg. That was my next assignment. So from Nuremberg, we worked up the Danube, and that's where we finished our flag. That night, we had to wait till the engineers built a bridge across, but the battalion commander, nobody had a flag except me, or my platoon. It was only half finished. And when the battalion commander asked to borrow it, my commander called, he said, you know, it's your flag. I said, Colonel Nolan wants your flag. I said, no, I'm not going to give it to him. Make common sense. It's white on one side. What do the Germans say? You want to give up or you want to still fight? It made sense to me. I wouldn't give it to him. Anyhow, we worked hard that night till we finished it. The next morning we crossed, and the first ride I ever had in a tank, and I'll take the ground. They were so tight, I said one shell can kill everybody in the tank. But one tank was disabled, so I had to leave the men, 5 of them, that rode the tank behind. They joined the next day, and one private, 16-year-old private, I don't have his name now, said, Lieutenant, guess what I saw? I wish I had a camera. He said, guess what? Guess what? Right along the river, right there, when they had to cross, Eisenhower, Bradley, Patton, Montgomery, and our division commander. Our division commander was right behind Patton. Patton asked the GI, he said, soldiers, how many Germans did you kill? Of course, his little private is shaking a little. He doesn't know, but my division commander was right behind Patton, and he said he jumped up and down, went like this. He said, many, sir. And he said, go on, carry on. So we carried on. So that was a real treat for him. He was so excited to see the whole staff of the European Command there. So I was signed to Nuremberg, which was a great assignment. I saw Goring every day, all of that boys. As you know, in Europe, in Germany, I know they do this. The courthouse is one side of the street, and the jail's on the other, and they have a tunnel going under. They don't want the prisoners to be exposed to the public, so they have them come under. So every day, Goring was brought up with 2 MPs. He was gone, his decorations were all off, of course, and he all died because they found out he was on dope. And they took a step at a time. We couldn't take any pictures, so I saw him every day go by me. Von Ribbentrop, general title, but I was a building officer. I had to get the building ready for the trial. The first room I had to get ready for interrogations, to get them ready for the trial, was Goring's room. So I had it all ready. We had an officer from Washington who wasn't in the war. He hadn't fought anything. He was a staff officer, and all he wanted to do was supervise. No, he was an observer and supervisor. He came over and he said, Lieutenant, I want you to go to Nuremberg and get some white silk. And I looked at him, I said, white silk for what? He said, we want to impress Goring by lining the whole room with silk. Can you imagine that crazy idea? I'm a first lieutenant, He said, Colonel, I said, no, sir, I'm not going to do that. I said, we just beat that you know what out of them. And you want to impress them with white silk. So that's how sometimes stupid orders get out and give them false to them. That's pretty stupid. Finally, orders came to come to Europe and to America, and we needed 85 points. And the points counted for service, decorations, how many overseas, how many inland, and so forth, and that made the 85. So we came back, and I got a forward on a Liberty ship called Sabita Brown. It was the first ship built in Portland, Oregon. We ran into one of those awful Atlantic storms. The waves were 40 foot high. If you know what a 40-foot wave is, it's pretty scary. So they had a propensity to break in half. And so the front half usually floats a little longer than the back half, because that's where the engine is. So the captain ordered for everybody to stand. So we had to stand on this side of this line. It's pretty scary with 40-foot waves out there, but the captain was smart enough. He made a left turn, went to Carolina. Carolina made a right turn and came back to New York Harbor. So he creeps up, it took about 13 days probably, close to it, I don't know exactly. And we get to the harbor, and I see that beautiful statue again, the Statue of Liberty. And this time it meant so much more to me, because I knew what America meant. I was so proud of seeing that statue the second time. So, I don't know, the little bit I contributed to the war, no matter how small, I'm so grateful and happy that I helped to preserve the greatest democracy on earth, the United States of America. Thank you very much. I wrote a book on my whole history. It's available at Amazon, and you can get it for $5 or $6, $7. They had one for $78 signed by the author. I told all my friends, buy the cheap one and I'll sign it. The latest book is at Barnes & Noble. It's a book of poems, and the ladies would enjoy this. I had 110 poems over a 3-year period down here in Pennsylvania, and I picked the best 74. I want to donate both of these books to the college, for the library. And then Gretchen said she wanted me to read my poem, one of my poems. It's not in the book. I think it's my best one. I love it. My America. I arrived in America in 1929. I saw first the Statue of Liberty and knew that liberty was all mine. Freedom was all mine. I lived through the Great Depression and fought in World War II. I could not have loved America more because all I heard was true. Our forefathers were dreamers and thought of trying something new, so America became the greatest nation that the world ever knew. I now felt an obligation, because of all the freedoms we have, to dedicate my life and defend our country to my grave. If all Americans carry out their duties and follow our forefathers' way, our freedoms will be protected and America will be here to stay. Thank you very much.
Honor me with about 2 minutes. Sam would never tell you this, but in his movement at the Battle of the Bulge, he came up to a field. As he told you, it was very cold and very snowy, and the field was completely covered, and they were directed to move forward out of the field.
I forgot the best story of all.
Because I didn't think you would tell it. Because
I should have. I didn't get it, but you got it because there's nothing like it. It took more courage. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, I'll tell it. Okay, I want to see how accurate you are.
Okay. Because you won't tell it truly. His first scout hit a mine, and was killed. He directed the second scout to go forward, and he fainted. So, who do you think went forward? He told all of his platoon to follow his footsteps, and he made it through. Sometime later, after the snow cleared, they went back, and there was about 3 times that his foot was within inches of a mine. But he brought his platoon through. He led his platoon.
The other 2 companies, the first man hit the mine and they got to blow his leg and they're moaning. That's what made it so hard. And when my men started to circle, then I told my Sergeant Size was my scout. I said, lights is our turn. His sides turned opaque and he collapsed right in front of me because he can hear these men moaning. He knows what's in front of us. 8 inches of snow, 12 inches all, so we know it's a minefield. And right away I remember graduating for Fort Benning and I said, I'm the leader. This goes back to the snake story which I told you. You have to reach inside of you and say, I got to do it. I said, I'm the leader. So I turned around and I gathered everybody together. I sent 2 men to the aid station with the man who fainted. And I said, I will lead, but do not step out of my footprint. And I looked into heaven and I said, God help me. So if anybody doesn't believe in God, all they have to do is read that story. It's in Army Times and the magazine. So I pushed that first foot down. Crunch, 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 crunch. I reached bottom. What a relief. Nothing happened. Second foot. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Nothing happened. I did that for 250 yards. Not just 10 feet. 200. Maybe the longest safe crossing in the history of the U.S. Crossed over, guess, when I look back, when I was at the furthest bank, I looked back, the greatest sight to see all the men in my footprints, all safe. Guess where my company commander is? He's the last one. And when he got up to the bank, I never got a thank you even. All he had to say was thank you, we made it. All he said, Sam, we made it. We made it. Yeah. I'm so grateful. I hugged this tree and thank God that we made it. But that wasn't it. 2 days later, the snow melted. See, up to now, we don't know how many mines are there. The snow's melted. And we were 200 yards away, and I had to go up. I asked him, I said, I got to go up and see where we crossed. There was a cargo net for as far as you can see, and they were spaced a meter apart, a meter square, and there's a mine in each one. So every 3 feet there was a mine across that field. How I escaped missing even a little bit, I know I had the divine guidance, otherwise I would have never made it. So I thank God every minute. Thank you. I made notes, but I must have skipped. Oh, these are the books for them. Okay. Okay. This is the money for my books. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Lombardo.
Thank you.
We would like to take a moment to share a short video about the Veterans Heritage Project and how it connects students and veterans.
Veterans Heritage Project is an educational enrichment program that connects students with veterans.
I got involved with the Veterans Heritage Project when I first moved to the United States. I moved from Argentina. This project helped me to understand what the United States was about, who was at the core of this country.
We are capturing these stories of those that have served, female, male, some were infantrymen, some were officers, but they're stories that haven't been told before or put in print.
Each student in the class has to write a story. Interviewing veterans firsthand was a really amazing way to learn about history.
You know, you never met this person, and after an hour, it's like your grandpa, it's like your dad.
Hearing from the veterans directly themselves instead of from a history book is extremely different because here you have someone, telling it from the first perspective. It
involves you a lot more, it makes it real.
So to be able to be a first-hand experience and really tell a student in a class and then get that put out there in a book, published into the Library of Congress, it's so empowering as a veteran, but at the same time it's a powerful learning source for students.
It was life-changing to be interviewed by a young person who actually cared.
There is a magic that happens when you get two generations sitting down together and having a conversation. That's at the heart, that these students are our future and they need to know a lot of those freedoms were on the backs of these veterans.
Nobody close to me really knew most of my story. After having a full conversation with them, it was a really good moment and opportunity to kind of release what I think was internalized.
Somebody needs to know what this person did with his life. It just is important.
We hear over and over again how it really has helped them heal. It's cathartic to be able to share their experience.
It's really helped me to deal with those events that I locked up and put away.
I always say if you get the demons out of here and put them out of here, you can fight them.
It's been such an incredible experience, and I've loved every story I've done. I've loved being a part of the whole process. It's definitely impacted my goals for the future.
Their stories made me fall in love with the military, and I decided that I wanted my own story, so I decided to go to Officer Candidate School. I recently earned my commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, and this has been the most important decision and best decision that I've made.
You see pride welling up in them, patriotism.
We're interlacing these generations and writing history together. There's not a better way to, I think, honor and respect these veterans, to write their stories and make sure that we never forget.
And they'll say we came as strangers, but we left as friends.
That connects students with veterans.
I got involved with the Veterans Heritage Project when
Each and every story that was written by the students who are here today was written with so much thought and passion. These stories are not only biographies, but stories that will come to life when they are read for years to come. At the end of last year, when I walked into this program, I had very high hopes for the students, veterans, and advisors. Today, as I walk away from this program, I am proud that my expectations exceeded themselves tremendously. These men and women are humble about their experiences and even act like anyone could have done their job. But in reality, each veteran who is interviewed are our real-life superheroes. Each one of them could have said, no, not today, but instead they chose to risk their lives for our freedom. Thank you again. In keeping with the VHP mission to connect students with veterans, we are pleased to recognize the students and advisors in this segment of the program. My fellow classmates have worked hard to uphold the highest tradition of scholarship and patriotism in writing their veteran stories and representing our generation at veteran events around the city. Our volunteer teacher advisors work tirelessly to coordinate the students' efforts and ensure all VHP chapter tasks are accomplished, driven by their passion to develop young citizens and enhance education. They champion VHP's mission in our communities, and we are grateful for them. We would like to give a special thank you to Collegiate High School's Assistant Principal, Christine Cruikshank and Julie Bruteski. They have worked so hard to make this possible. Would all students and advisors who have participated in the VHP program please stand to be recognized. Will the student authors please escort their veterans to the book signing tables, where you can visit them and have your book signed. Books are on sale in the lobby for the remainder of this event. We invite you to stay and meet our students and veterans. This concludes the formal portion of our program. Again, please remain seated as our students escort the veterans to their table. We hope you visit the veterans to have your book signed. Thank you so much for coming today.